A school janitor's quiet devotion caught Barron Trump's attention, and what he did next changed everything. The sun had only just begun to rise when Ronald James pulled his old, battered sedan into the farthest corner of the Oxbridge Academy parking lot. He always parked in that same secluded spot, as if trying not to draw attention to the peeling paint and dented bumper. The engine let out one last cough before stalling completely, and Ronald sighed, gripping the steering wheel for a moment. Another day, another effort to make ends meet. Grabbing his thermos from the passenger seat, he gave the dashboard a gentle pat, almost as if thanking the car for lasting another day, before stepping out. The early morning air was crisp, and the world was still wrapped in silence, apart from the faint chirping of birds and the distant rumble of a delivery truck. Oxbridge Academy was slowly coming to life, and Ronald appreciated these quiet moments before the day's chaos took over. As he pushed his trusty cleaning cart down the empty hallways, a sense of pride filled him. The floors gleamed under the overhead lights, a reflection of his meticulous care. Most people didn't notice, but that never mattered to him. Ronald wasn't in it for recognition. For him, it was about doing the job right. Every hallway, every classroom, every trash can, he approached them all with the same quiet dedication. To the students, he was simply Mr. James, the friendly janitor who always had a kind word or a warm smile. He knew their names, their favorite sports, even their little quirks. "Good morning, Marcus. How's that science project coming along? Hey, Jenny, that goal you scored yesterday, impressive." These little exchanges became part of his daily rhythm, his way of connecting in a role that often felt invisible. And still, his kindness never wavered, even when his body ached from hours of scrubbing and mopping. But outside the walls of this school, life wasn't as polished. Ronald had endured more struggles than most could imagine. Growing up in a small Florida town with few opportunities had been tough enough, but the hardest blow of all, losing his wife to cancer a decade ago. Suddenly, he had to be both mother and father to their 2 children, juggling the roles of provider, caretaker, and disciplinarian. He worked long, grueling hours to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads, sacrificing his own comfort to ensure his kids had a shot at a better future. His old sedan? A daily reminder of those sacrifices. Its engine sputtered more often than it purred, and every commute felt like a gamble. Some mornings, it refused to start at all, forcing Ronald to rely on borrowed rides or long walks. Yet, he never let it break his spirit. One day at a time, he'd tell himself, tightening his grip on the steering wheel, coaxing the car into motion. Despite his hardships, Ronald never lost sight of what truly mattered. His children were his world, and everything he did was for them. He dreamed of seeing them succeed in ways he never could, and that dream kept him going, even on the hardest days. What he didn't know, however, was that his quiet resilience and unwavering kindness had not gone unnoticed. One student in particular had been paying attention, Barron Trump. To most, Barron was just another student at Oxbridge Academy, reserved, a little shy, but always polite. Yet behind his quiet demeanor was a sharp eye and an even sharper sense of empathy. Barron noticed things others overlooked. And lately, he had been watching Mr. James. It began with small observations, the way Ronald greeted everyone with a smile, even when exhaustion lined his face, the meticulous way he worked, ensuring everything was spotless, and those unnoticed moments, like when he replaced a broken locker handle before a student even reported it. Something about Mr. James stuck with Barron, something that made him want to know more. But Ronald had no idea that his simple acts of kindness were about to spark something extraordinary, something that would change his life forever. Ronald had planned to get ahead on some maintenance work while the building was still quiet, but then a teacher approached him with a warm smile. "You should come too, Mr. James. You're going to want to see this." Reluctantly, he followed the steady flow of students and staff heading toward the auditorium. Slipping into the back row, he hoped to blend into the crowd unnoticed. But as he sat down, he couldn't help but sense the buzz of excitement filling the large room. What was going on? On stage, the headmaster stepped forward, greeted by enthusiastic applause. He spoke briefly, welcoming everyone, but then his words took a different turn. Today's assembly isn't about academics or school announcements, it's about celebrating a member of our community. That caught Ronald's attention. Still, he had no clue what was about to happen. Then, Barron Trump walked onto the stage, a small stack of note cards in his hands. Ronald recognized him immediately. Barron was the quiet, observant type, always polite, always offering a respectful nod in the hallways. Ronald smiled faintly, assuming the boy must have done something remarkable to be given the stage. But then, "Good morning, everyone," Barron began, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "I'm standing here today because there's someone in this school who deserves to be recognized. Someone who makes this place better. Every single day." Ronald shifted slightly in his seat, his brows furrowing. He glanced around the room, wondering who Barron was talking about. Then, the next words made his heart stop. "I'm talking about Mr. James." The entire auditorium erupted in applause. Ronald froze, completely caught off guard. His hands gripped the edges of his chair as he stared at the young man on stage, barely able to process what was happening. Barron smiled at the cheering crowd, waiting for the noise to settle before continuing. "Mr. James isn't just our janitor. He's the one who shows up before all of us to make sure our classrooms are spotless, our hallways shine, and our school actually feels like home. He's the guy who fixes what's broken, whether it's a locker, a leaky faucet, or even our spirits when we're having a rough day." The words hit Ronald like a wave. He had always done his job quietly, never expecting gratitude. Hearing someone acknowledge it so openly, it was overwhelming. Just then, the lights dimmed, and a video flickered to life on the giant screen behind Barron. A montage played, clips and photos of Ronald in action, mopping floors, repairing broken chairs, carrying supplies. Each frame capturing the quiet dedication he poured into his work every single day. Interspersed between the footage were interviews, students and staff sharing what he meant to them. "He always has a smile for you," one student said. "Even when we make his job harder, he never complains," another admitted sheepishly. Laughter rippled through the audience at that, but Ronald couldn't laugh. He was too stunned, his throat tightening with emotion,